We'll go ahead and open this door. This is one of the doors that we labeled, so we want to make sure it stays open here. I'm going to open this door too. This was another one of the doors that we set. So there it is. We left it open and now it is closed. You can see we left it open and now it's closed. So hey guys, it's Techno Freak here and welcome to episode 35 of my custom story creation tutorial for Amnesia Rebirth. And today we're going to be talking about permafail, specifically like respawning and kind of like resetting a little bit of what's going on in the level. Before we start discussing permafail, there are a few kind of like respawn death type checkpoint methods that are in the game. We'll be talking about all of them eventually. Today we're going to be talking about permafail. There also is death, and then there's also like a checkpoint. There's some kind of a checkpoint system in the game as well. I think it's tied to the save game system, but we'll probably get to that when we'll get to that in a few episodes when we start talking about other things as well. But permafail, typically the way it's used in the game, it's kind of like if you get like caught by a ghoul or something like that, it's kind of like you relocate in a different part of the map. You get respawned in a different part of the map, but you don't necessarily die. You kind of just go to a different place in the level, and you can continue wherever you left off, meaning that like things like doors and items that you've interacted with, you'll still have or will be relocated. In today's episode, we'll talk about the respawning, but we'll also talk about how you can reset a few things if you kind of want to like take the player back a little bit. But first, the main priority is just kind of like respawning the player, and then after that, kind of getting rid of the ghoul if the ghoul was the result of the death and everything. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So first thing I want to do is kind of just talk about the flow of our level here for those that might have not seen the previous episodes. So pretty much we have a level we spawn over here, and we have a ghoul that's going to spawn right here. He's triggered once we reach the bottom of the steps right here in this trigger area right here. So when we step through here, it triggers a 10-second timer that will spawn the ghoul behind us, and then the ghoul can find us and kill us and stuff like that, or find us and make us permafail. What we want to do is kind of set up some like checkpoints, essentially some permafail respawns. So if the player does die from the ghoul, we can respawn somewhere, and then we'll talk about how we can reset a few things in the level as well. So first thing we want to do is think about where you want to respawn your players. Like what points in the game here can like your player die, any places that he can fall off from like a height and actually die, like a spike or something like that. Well, that'd be more for using deaths, but you can also use permafails. That's what we're going to be using. We're going to be using permafails today. So what I think here, one good practice to have with permafails is to always have a default respawn for permafails. So if there's no other place to spawn the player, there's always a default permafail, just in case the player manages to get killed somehow, or manages to permafail without you actually having any point set. It's always a good thing to have, because you never know how your player can die sometimes, as much as you try and script things. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up one right here at spawn. So this is going to be our default permafail. And then we're going to set one up right at the base of the stairs here, right before this trigger area that spawns that ghoul, as to kind of bring the player back a little bit. Because I'd be assuming that the player would be down in the bottom area, kind of looking around and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and start putting down some areas already. So we want to go ahead and go to areas here, and we want to go ahead and hit the down arrow here, and we want to find just permafail. There should be one called just permafail. There it is. And we're gonna go ahead and put it down. I think I have my map kind of aiming a little high here, or my focus a little high here. So I'm gonna hit F to focus onto this point here. We'll go ahead and get our permafail now. We can place it down. We'll turn on grid snapping here, and we'll place the permafail here. I don't want it to be too close to any of the walls or anything, because there is an animation that does play when you permafail. So that should be good enough. As a note, typically the player spawns looking in either the blue direction or opposite of the blue direction. There's actually a few permafail respawn animations, but typically there's one that aims in the direction of this little blue arrow here. There's one that aims opposite of the blue. So depending on which animation you get, you could be looking one way or the other. And yeah, so we got that one. Let's make sure we give it a good name here. So let's go ahead and click on that area, and we're gonna call it the convention for the default is just permafail and then default with a capital D. So that's what we're gonna call it. We're gonna call it default, and then we're gonna go ahead and create another area as well, and it's gonna be down here, like I said, and it's gonna be the second permafail here area here. So let's go ahead and focus on here again, and here we are. And now we're gonna go ahead and place it down like right here in the center or something like that. So let's go ahead and get another area here. Let's put it like right there, and then we'll do the same business here. We'll bring it up here, and yep, and that works there. Now we have our two permafail areas. Let's give this one a name too. This name could be whatever makes sense to you. I'm going to call this one staircase, but of course you can call it whatever you want. Staircase for me, I think, is the best term here, because it's the permafail respawn area in the staircase. So that works for me. And I make sure that the little blue arrow is also in this line here, because I want him to look this way, but he might also end up looking towards the wall depending on the animation that plays. Now that we have that, we're pretty much set up to start scripting some of this permafail stuff. So we want to go ahead now and go over to our script file now, and let's start talking about some of the permafail functions. So let's go ahead and switch over, and now what we want to do is let's zoom in here first to get you guys zoomed in so you can see everything. And what we're gonna do first is the ghoul that we have spawning. I want to set him to insta kill. So let's do we will go ahead and do ghoul, and we'll do set instant kill. And then we're going to type in the name of the ghoul. So the name of our ghoul is Ghoul Hallway. And we're going to set that to be true, because we do want him to insta-kill. And we'll go ahead and close that out with a semicolon. So I have some stuff here that I probably want to disable. Let's go ahead and remove this sense active here. Let's remove this. We'll also just set him, I think he's set to retreat here as well. So we're just going to enable command threaten player. Of course, you probably have your ghoul scripted ready. I'm just gonna clear up some of this junk I have here, and pretty much we just want to tell the ghoul to go chase after the player to kill him, and we want to make sure insta kill is on here. Now that we have that all set there, now what we want to do is write our string that's gonna save our permafail state. So this will make sense in a second. So what we want to do, I have a section here for global variables. We put this when we kept track of like the amount of times we interacted with a door. This is just a comment here, just for our own reference. You can also put like a line here, like we do with our functions down there. And this stores all our global variables. And what global variables pretty much mean is that you can put a value here, you can save a value here, and you can access that value from any other place in your script. So if we're over here inside of this like brick bottle, we can go back and we can actually like see what this value is at any point. And that's going to be helpful here for keeping track of our checkpoints. So we have new checkpoints, or want to check an old checkpoint, we can actually check that at any point because it's saved globally. So what we want to do first, it's going to be a string. So we're going to do t string, and then we're going to say perma fail, and we're going to say checkpoint. So this is our own name. You don't have to call this Permafail Checkpoint. I'm going to call this Permafail Checkpoint just because it's the simplest thing we can call it. Pretty straightforward. This is our Permafail Checkpoint. And we're going to set this equal to the name of our default permafail area. So if we go back to our level editor here, if you recall, we named it Permafail Default. Let's go ahead and click on it so we can see it. Permafail Default. So we're going to go ahead and I accidentally changed it here, so let me undo that. So it's Permafail Default. Let me just make sure I didn't make any additional changes here. So it's Permafail Default, and we're going to go ahead and make sure that that's what we're going to put in here. So I just copied it just to have it copied, and we're going to put it there. So as soon as the script loads up, we're setting a value called Permafail Checkpoint to be equal to Permafail Default. This means that we can see this value. It's a global variable, meaning it can be reached by any other place in your script here, and we can check this value and update it at any point that we want. And this will be useful for when we update the permafail, and we want to do it at a staircase now. Then we can update it there. This is slightly different. The way we're doing the permafail implementation is actually slightly different from the way that the developers do it. The reason why is because the way I'm going to show you guys is a bit more simple. Maybe not as efficient as the developers, but it's much simpler and much easier to understand if this is the first time you're doing permafail. Of course, you can feel free to look at the way that developers do it and copy them if you feel you're more knowledgeable about with your programming. So now that we have our global variables set, we can go ahead and start writing out the permafail functions. So in the beginning, we have all these default functions that you can call. So like on setup, when the level sets up, we can set values in here on start, on enter, on leave, a whole bunch of stuff in here. There is actually a couple for permafail specifically. So we're going to go ahead and put these in here. So we're going to say bool on permafail, and this has to be exact. So make sure this is exactly the way I have it here. And then we'll go ahead and do our open and close curly brace. And we do have to return something, but we'll get to that in a second. And then we'll do the other one here, bool, and we'll say on permafail respawn. It's not any of these here, so don't select any of those down there. And then go ahead and do our open and curly brace again. So these we're actually not going to be talking much about this one, but I want to mention it in case you guys have a use for this one specifically. On a respawn of a permafail, you can run anything you want, and you can put any code you want in here. Mainly will be right here. So on the moment you permafail, your permafailing is done, we can go ahead and do something. So that's why we need these two. But again, we're not going to use this one. So since we're going to use this one, we have to return a false here, or return true here. Interesting thing about what this returns here, this returns true. And if you return true here, that pretty much means you're telling the game that we want to use the default wake up sequence for permafail respawn. So if you just want to use the default wake up sequence for permafail, set this to true. If you set this to false, you'll have to write your own wake up sequence for your player. So you'll have to fade out his screen. You'll have to put whatever animations you want. So if you were interested in creating your own custom wake up sequence for the player after permafail, this would be the place to do it. You would just want to return false. You would put all your code in here, and then you'd return false here. But we're not going to be doing that. So we're just returning true because we want to use the default animation. And then we'll be working in here now. So first thing I want to do here, now that we have our permafail function, I just want to print out a message so that we know that we permafail. We can see it on the screen. So we're going to say clux add debug message, and we're going to go ahead and print out the debug message permafail detected. So we're just saying that we detected the permafail, and that way we know we've successfully executed this code. So just a good indicator for us. So now here, it's where we want to put our if statements to check what state we're on, so we know where we want to respawn the player and stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in if, and we're going to close that and put our curly braces and everything. And what we're going to say is permafail checkpoint. So permafail checkpoint, and this is we're gonna check to see what it is. So remember, permafail checkpoint is that global variable we set down here, permafail default. That's one of the ones we want to check. We're gonna say equals here, and then we're gonna say permafail and then underscore default. So if the permafail checkpoint is permafail default, we want to go ahead and execute some code. And we have one more permafail area as well, so we might as well put that here as well. We'll say else if. You could just say else, but you don't know what it is. If you're going to add more in the future, you probably want to do else if. So we'll say else if, and then we'll put this pretty much the same thing here, permafail checkpoint. We're going to copy this. We're going to paste it here, and we're going to say equals, and we're going to type in the name of our next one that we want, permafail, and this is going to be staircase. And let me not forget the I here, staircase. And so if you have more permafail areas, you just go ahead and keep going here. You go else if, and then whatever this permafail area is, else if, and you just keep going. And the more permafail checkpoints you have, the more you keep going down. You can do that. And then what we want to do in these here, first things first, we want to make sure we actually set what the respawn area is. And we want to set them to be these permafail areas. So we can do fear handler underscore, and we'll say set permafail respawn area. You can see it is this one right here. So we're going to go ahead and hit enter there. And now it just wants us to specify what the name of the area is. So the name of the area, since we're inside of permafail default, technically this would be permafail default here. But since we've checked that this is equal to permafail default, we actually don't even need to do that. We can just copy permafail checkpoint, and we can just put that right in here, permafail checkpoint, and make sure we close this out with a semicolon. So now the permafail respawn area is going to be permafail checkpoint, which we've confirmed to be permafail default here. And we're pretty much going to copy and paste this down here as well. If we check that permafail checkpoint is equal to permafail staircase here. So we're going to go ahead and set the respawn area to be permafail checkpoint. Pretty much at this point, the default should work if we were to start this up right now. But we want to make sure we can set the permafail staircase here. So what we want to do is you want to find a good place in your level that you would like to trigger the creation of a checkpoint, pretty much. So if we go back to the level editor, just to kind of recap over here, the way that this thing works here. So I have a trigger area here called trigger bottom stairs, and if we go back into our script here, we can go ahead and scroll down till we find it, and it will be somewhere down here, I believe. It should be this one right over here. So on collide player trigger bottom stairs, we want to go ahead and execute whatever's in here. And what that is a timer. So in here we're setting a timer to go off, and the timer will run this timer function right here, on timer hallway ghoul spawn in 10 seconds, and that's what will actually do the spawning of our ghoul here. And we also do some other stuff like change the brightness here. We actually don't need to. We actually that's actually unimportant right now. So this is where the ghoul spawns. So this the moment that this ghoul spawns is when I would consider that the player is in danger of permafailing, especially since we have insta kill on for this ghoul. So what we're gonna do now, as soon as we set the ghoul to be active here, we're gonna go ahead and set that checkpoint. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say permafail checkpoint, and you can actually see it's right here. This is our global function that we created. Permafail checkpoint, that's the same one that's up here that we made, or I think it's yeah, right here, Permafail Checkpoint. Right now it'd be set to Permafail Default. Of course, that doesn't really matter too much. What we want to do is once we know that the player triggered this area and set off this timer, we want to go ahead and set the Permafail Checkpoint. So as soon as the ghoul spawns, we want to set the player checkpoint. So we're going to set it to whatever we want it to be. In this case, we already know what we want it to be, Permafail _staircase. So now we've pretty much updated the Permafail Checkpoint to be Permafail Staircase. So now if the player does fail, since this global variable that we created here is up to date to Permafail Staircase, because that's what we set it here, then if the player permafails up here, the respawn area will be set accordingly, which would be Permafail Checkpoint. So yeah, so everything would be all set for the players respawning. Of course, there's some other things we'd want to do as well. If the player dies and respawns, the ghoul is still going to be there. So we want to make sure we despawn the ghoul. So we could probably just do that right here. So we'll set the set the respawn area here, and then we can say ghoul not ghoul. We can say entity underscore set active, and then we can do ghoul hallway, and then we want to say false. And then we'll go ahead and save that. So we'll go ahead and in this case, again, because we know that ghoul can kill the player here in this permafail sequence here, we can go ahead and despawn them if the player is killed in this checkpoint area that we created. So with that, pretty much we can go ahead and give the game a run and test it out. The episode's not over yet. We're going to talk about how we can reset some things in the level as well after this, but this is just kind of like the basic stuff. We actually still have to return a few things here, so we're not completely done with this function yet, but we want to make sure, just like this function here, we have to return something. So if we return if we successfully execute any of our permafail code, we're going to go ahead and return true. And same thing over here, we're going to return true. And then if none of these get caught, we're going to return false. What would probably happen here, we return false, the screen will just probably stay black if the player dies, which means it couldn't find the respawn area. So you could set this to true if you really want the player to respawn, but he just respawned in place. So you could set this to true here if you want the player to respawn. Realistically, if you programmed everything correctly, we shouldn't be getting to this state here, because you should have a checkpoint set properly. But you could always set this to true. So if everything stays black after the player permafails or respawns, it's because one of these returned false here. But again, we're returning true here because we want the default permafail cutscene to play. So that's why I return false true here. So let's go ahead and start up our game now and check out what this looks like. Again, this is just the first basic implementation. We're going to talk about a bit more about resetting the level a little bit after we're done testing this. So let's go ahead and check it out. And before we start up the game again, actually just had an error launch in the game, not because of any of the code we ran, but I just forgot a few semicolons, quite a few actually. So don't forget your semicolons. We forgot one right here. And if we scroll down, we forgot one right here on the checkpoint, and we forgot another one all the way down here, right here when we set the staircase here. So you might have caught that while I was while you were watching, but yeah, make sure you get all those semicolons in there. There should be a semicolon pretty much at the end of every function that you run here. So now that we have those all placed in, let's go ahead and rerun our game and check it out. All right, so here we are in our level. So what we're gonna do, so as I know, we have a permafail area right here, and remember we set that to be the default. So no matter what, we will be spawning here if we somehow manage to die. But we're gonna go ahead and head over here, and we're gonna go ahead and trigger that trigger area at the bottom of the steps that we got down here. and that should set off the ghoul. And then what we're going to do, since the ghoul is set to insta kill, it's going to go ahead and kill us in one shot. So remember, once the ghoul is triggered, our permafail area will be set right here. So let's go ahead and trigger that trigger area, and let's run back up to the top of the stairs, just to get the ghoul to spawn right in front of us and just kind of kill us right here. So there he is, gonna grab us. Insta kill is set to true, so we should die right here instantly, and we should start triggering a permafail here, and we should black out, and we should respawn at the bottom of the stairs where we set the respawn area. You can see at the bottom right, actually, permafail respawn area, whatever, and player respawn that permafail staircase. So you can see that it's working properly. And here we are, we're respawning, and here we are at the bottom of the stairs. And this is one of the default cutscenes that's playing here. And we just gotta wait for it to finish. But yeah, it looks like we are here at the bottom of the stairs, as we should be. We just gotta wait for this cutscene to be over here, and there we go. So here we are at the bottom of the steps. The lights turned off again because we have that there. But notice we walk through this again. We're actually not gonna trigger anything here. If you had moved any objects previous, like if we go back up to the top of the stairs and we look at the door at the top here, right here, you can see it's still open and everything. So like, the level didn't reset or anything, the ghoul didn't respawn, the permafail doesn't undo anything that's happened. All it does is just kind of respawn you somewhere else. So a lot of this you'll have to kind of like reset yourself if you're using permafails. Again, we will be talking about other systems that we can use for this kind of stuff, but today's just permafail, and we'll talk a little bit about kind of resetting the level now. So now let's go back to our script, and that's what exactly we're going to talk about. Let's talk about how we can reset some things in our level and kind of refine our code a little better, make it look a little bit nicer and a little bit more refined. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so here we are back in our script now. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about how we can kind of reset the level. So what we want to do, I'm going to talk about some key ones that we kind of want to reset here. And that's going to be, in my opinion, that's going to be the ghoul. Is going to be the ghoul kind of resetting. So if we were to make the ghoul spawn again, the ghoul will spawn exactly where he despawned, so he won't reset to the original position that he was at. So we want to reset him back to the original position, and that will kind of show you guys how you can reset any other objects as well to their original position. So if a player grabbed an object and you want to make sure it's back in its original position, you can kind of follow these instructions that we're going to do for the ghoul. Another thing, we want to make sure a door is set to be closed. So in case the player opens some doors, we want to make sure that we set those doors to be closed again. And then finally, what I also want to show you guys is how to kind of re-enable any callbacks that you have in your level. We're gonna have to like re-add it. So it should be the code should be pretty straightforward. But I'm also gonna show you how to kind of restructure this a little bit cleaner as well. But let's just talk about how we can do the resetting first. So here we have the code where we set the entity to be inactive. So we also want to reset that ghoul to his original position as well. We don't want to leave him wherever we despawned him, so that we can properly respawn him later. So the way we do that, we want to save the ghoul's position somewhere where he was originally, and then we can kind of respawn him in that same position. So we can actually do that with another global function. So what we're going to do is type in here, we're going to get the vector position of where the ghoul was. So we're going to say C vector 3F, and then we're going to do, we're going to give it a name. So I'm going to say ghoul hallway spawn POS for position. And we're actually not going to set this to equal to anything right now, because when these global variables are going to be called pretty early on, and the ghoul actually won't have even loaded when the script runs. So we don't want to put anything here just yet. What we want to do is pretty much get his position before we spawn him in, because we know he'll be in his original position at that point. So we spawned in the Ghoul on that timer. So we're going to scroll down, and here's the timer. So this is where we set them active right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to set that global variable to the position of the Ghoul right now, right before the Ghoul is spawned in. So we could do that by first calling our global function, our global variable that we just created, and we're going to set that equals now, and we're going to set that equal to map underscore get entity, and then first thing we're going to do is get the name of the Ghoul. So it's going to be Ghoul hallway, and then after that we don't need we actually don't need to put anything else here. What we're going to do is do dot get position. So this will give us the C vector 3f of the Ghoul, and that's what we'll save into the Ghoul's into the global variable that we created. So now we have the original position of the Ghoul before we went ahead. Before we go ahead and set him to be active. So what we want to do now is make it so that we can set his position when we fail. So we're gonna go back up here to our where we set him active, where we set him inactive. So we'll set him inactive, and then what we'll do is we'll respawn him. We'll spawn him wherever we want to place him. So we're gonna do map underscore get entity. So we're gonna go ahead and get the Ghoul entity itself. So we're gonna say Ghoul hallway, and then we're gonna go ahead and do dot set position, and then we can just use that global variable we just created. So it'd be Ghoul hallway spawn pause, his spawn position, and we'll make sure we put down our semicolon there. So we'll go ahead. So when the permafail happens at the staircase, we'll despawn the Ghoul, and we'll set the Ghoul to this position here. And you can pretty much do this with anything. It doesn't have to be a Ghoul. You can do this with any object in your level, any entity in your level, and it'll respawn it back in its original position pretty much. A good way, it's pretty much a good way to do that if you needed to do that. So the setting position is pretty much done. It's pretty much done there for the Ghoul, and again, also for any objects. If you had any other objects you wanted to respawn, not just Ghouls. And now another one is the door. So let's kind of just label this here. Here we'll just say disable Ghoul and reset position. So that's what we're doing here, just to kind of label everything out that we're doing here. And then we're gonna do // and we're gonna do another one here. So we're gonna do close all doors. So we want to close all doors when the player dies as well. So in case they had any doors open, we kind of want to reset them to their original position. And what we're gonna do, we're actually gonna do this with a wild card. So if we go to my my level here, I have some doors scattered around. You'll see this one's called door 3. This one is a different one. So pretty much any doors that are gonna be left open, that could be left open by the player, I'm gonna call door 3. So that I'm gonna call door underscore something. So like for example, let's see. So this is door underscore 1. This is door underscore 2, and this one over here is called door underscore 3. This one here we actually break down with a hammer. So we actually don't want to do that one to be a door. So we can use a wildcard, and by specifying door underscore, we can actually specify every single door with that kind of name, door underscore 1, 2, 3, 4, and we can set them all to be closed simultaneously. So that's what we're gonna do here. It seems like a lot, but it's actually pretty straightforward the way we do this. So we're gonna go back into our script file, and all we're gonna do, as long as you gave them those proper names, door 1, door underscore 1, door underscore 2, it doesn't have to be that. It could be anything you want to. We just have to follow a set format. We're gonna do swing door underscore set closed. Right here, it's this one right here. Set closed. And what we're gonna do is, instead of specifying one single name, we're gonna specify door underscore, and I'm gonna say star. So any door named door underscore and then something after will be included in this function, and they will be closed. So we'll do comma space closed. We do want it to be closed, so we're gonna set it to true. And then if we want to play any effects, we want to say false because the player's not going to see anything if there are any door effects. The player won't see anything, so we don't need to show him any effects. And we'll set it to false. And just like that, if the player opened any doors, they're all going to be shut closed. No problem with that. And now the last one is resetting any trigger area. So reset trigger area. So again, I'm just bringing up some common ones that you might want to do. So resetting trigger areas. So the way we executed this whole thing pretty much was with a trigger area. So let's go back into the level editor here. And at the very bottom of the stairs down here, this was our trigger area we triggered. Once it's triggered, we have it in our code to not run it again. It's only run once because we obviously don't want the player running this code multiple times. We don't want it to run to this trigger area multiple times. So once it's activated once, it's removed. And of course, it's the same one that will kill the player because it will spawn a ghoul and it could kill the player, it could permafail the player. So we want to recreate this, and we're spawning the player right here too. So we do want that ghoul to respawn and EFX to kind of replay. So we're going to go ahead and recreate this trigger area. And that's actually done pretty simply as well. So what we're going to say is entity underscore add collide callback here. So we're pretty much going to add the collide callback in our script directly. And we're going to say player, because we want the collision to be between the player and the trigger area. So then the second one is what it's going to collide with. So the player colliding with the trigger area. So we're going to say trigger bottom stairs, and that's the name of our trigger area at the bottom of the stairs. And then the function we want to execute here. So again, we can call the same function we already have down here. So on collide player, it should be on collide player bottom stairs or something like that. Yeah, trigger bottom stairs here. So this is the code we want the player that we have currently running right now, and we want it to run again. So we're going to be adding this up here. So we're recreating this trigger area here. And that's pretty much it. So at this point now, we re-added the callback back to that collide area. So when the player enters that area again, this will run the same function again that it ran originally, which was the on collide player trigger bottom stairs, which means that the ghoul will respawn and the whole thing will pretty much reset there. So those are a few reset points there. So those are all the main ones I wanted to talk about. Of course, I'm sure you guys have more that you might want. Of course, comment if there's any that you're unsure how to do in the comments. I'd be happy to point it out for you guys, or if you guys need a quicker way to do something. And also, there's also the Discord. It's in the link of every video that I have. A few guys there, they know what they're doing. They can help you guys out, and I can help you guys out too. I'm on that Discord as well, so you can always hop on and check out, ask questions and stuff like that. We're done with this now, but we're gonna make this a little bit more organized, because if we're gonna have all this code running every single time that that every time that we have a new permafail area, this is gonna get cluttered up really quickly. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna make our own function to put all of these inside of. So we're gonna go down to the bottom of the bottom of our script here. So we have our custom item functions here that we wrote in a previous episode. We're gonna I'm gonna copy pretty much this thing right here, just kind of our label here, and we're gonna say we're gonna remove custom item functions. We're gonna say permafail functions. So these are gonna be our own permafail functions that we wrote to like kind of reset whatever we want. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna call this one void permafail. It's called permafail underscore staircase. So we're pretty much going to call it the same name as the actual permafail area, and we'll do our open and close curly brace here. So now we actually don't have to do anything here. What we're going to do is just copy our code that's up here that we just wrote for all that resetting stuff. So all of this right here, we're going to leave the respawn area code by itself. We're not going to touch that one. We're going to actually leave that one there. and we're gonna bring that code that we just wrote, and we're gonna put it in here instead. So that way we don't have it all the way at the top, kind of taking up all that space that we're going to be writing other stuff. It will be all the way down here, and it will be all kind of compacted in our one function here. And now all we have to do now is just call this function, and we can pretty much go all the way back up to the top here. And right here where we had all that code, instead of writing all that code that we just did, we just type in permafail. And you should see yours right here, staircase. That's the one that we just wrote. And make sure you put that semicolon at the end. So this will pretty much do exactly what that does on there, because all it's going to do is going to set that checkpoint. It's going to call your own function, which we wrote, and we put down here, right here, which has all that code that we wrote. And it will run it, and we will be pretty much golden. We'll pretty much be golden. But let's take this even one step further, just one step further. So notice how we return true here. Instead of writing this line and then return true, why don't we just have our function here return true for us, so that we don't have to return true there and add an extra line to our code. So that's pretty easy. Instead of putting void here, void pretty much means we're not returning anything. So we set this to bool. This indicates that we're going to be returning something. And so we're going to run all this code, and at the very end, we can type in return true. And now even the return true, we pushed off to the end now. And what we can do now is go back up here to our code here. And instead of typing in return true, we can cut this out here, cut out the name of our function. We'll paste it right here. So since our permafail staircase function returns true, we don't need to say return true here. We can just return our function's return, and we return true. So we don't need to even do that. So that helps clean up the code a little bit, and it helps keep all your code organized all the way at the bottom. And that way you can start writing whatever resets you want for all your stuff. Any new things you want to happen when the player dies, you can script it all inside of this function. So when the player permafail staircases, and he's respawning on the permafail staircase, anything you could possibly want to do to your level, you can just keep adding more functions as much as you want, and you keep putting it here, all kind of compartmentalized in one spot for you to kind of run your code, execute your code, and kind of like not lose track and have all this code scattered all over the place. So really good to do that. I highly encourage you guys to do this if you're going to be writing a lot of permafails for a level. But yeah. So with that, now all that's left to do is just test it. So let's go ahead and launch up our game and see how everything works. So let's go ahead and do that. So here we are back in our level now. So what we're gonna do now is we'll go ahead and open this door. This is one of the doors that we labeled, so we want to make sure it stays open. That way we can check it too. And we'll go ahead and jump down here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna avoid stepping into our trigger area right there just yet. So we want to go down here, and I'm going to open this door too. This was another one of the doors that we set so to close. So let's make sure it stays open there. Yeah, so we have our collide area here. We're going to go ahead and hit it now. We're going to go back up to the top of the stairs, and have that ghoul kill us. We should spawn at Permafail staircase, which is down there. So we'll have the ghoul spawn here, and he's going to kill us. So what we're going to look for now, he should have despawned just like last time. He should have despawned, and the trigger area that we had at the bottom of the stairs should be reset as well. So let's go ahead and finish respawning here. So we should be getting up. So yeah, so we're going to go up and check the door at the top first. And then we're going to check the other door as well. And then we're going to go ahead and step back in the trigger area and see if we can trigger our ghoul again and permafail again. So let's go ahead and let that happen. So here we are. These cutscenes are always pretty long. So here we are. I got control now. So now let's go back up to the top of the stairs and check that door. So if or it should be this way. So there it is. We left it open, and now it is closed, not locked, just closed. so it kind of like resets it. Of course, this one might not be a door you want to reset since it's kind of like a checkpoint, but you can just give it a different name, that way it doesn't reset. And then let's go ahead and go back down here. And again, I'm trying to avoid this this trigger area here. I want to check the door here, and you can see we left it open and now it's closed. So we reset the door position, the door status completely, and we're gonna go ahead and step in this trigger area now, and this should re-trigger that ghoul again, and we should be able to, you know, get killed by him again, or he should hunt the player down again. And there he is, and he comes after us, and he will kill us once again since insta-kill is still on. And we're gonna die here, and we're gonna respawn again at the staircase because we didn't set any checkpoints or anything. So we'll be respawning here at the staircase, and there we are, right at the staircase. So and now we can pretty much do the same thing again. We can step in the trigger area again. We'll reset it. All the doors are gonna be closed again. Everything's gonna, all that Permafail function code is gonna run again. So yeah. So with that, guys, I'm pretty much going to say Permafail is covered. I don't think we're going to be coming back to this topic too much after this, but we still have to talk about death. Death is very similar to Permafail, and we're going to talk about checkpoints as well. I believe they have a checkpoint system. I haven't looked into it just yet, but I'm sure there'll be an episode for it down the line. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. I know we wrote a lot of code today. It's kind of two parts to the episode. That's been my video format recently, kind of like a simple way to do something, and then the more complicated, slightly more complicated, but more put together way. So with that, I'm going to wrap up the episode, guys. Make sure you check out our Discord. Links always in the description of every video, so go ahead and check it out. Definitely some good stuff over there. People showing off their custom stories. Got a lot of work going on over there, so definitely stop by, say hello, ask questions. Community is nice. Everybody wants to help. So yeah, and with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Have a good day, guys. Make sure you leave a comment. Make sure you subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye, guys.